This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees is called to order. We do have a quorum. The meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thanks, everybody, for coming out today. We have one thing. Well, I guess we'll go into executive session real quick.
Yes, sir.
Yep, we're going to go into executive session real quick. Okay, we are reconvening from our first executive session of the day, and we do have an item, which is to consider board approval of hiring a director of athletics.
Mr. Washman, trustees, thank you for doing what y'all do. It's been a while since we've considered a director of athletics, over a decade. And I believe it was so important the last time that you hired the director of athletics before you had the superintendent hired, because the vacancies were at the same time in typical East Texas fashion, right? So today we have a recommendation before you for the designation and the promotion of one of our assistant athletic directors in Sam Gillespie. You've got his resume in front of you, and we're in good shape athletically, administratively. There's no doubt about it. The last 10 years have seen an improvement, not only facilities thanks to our taxpayers, approving those bonds by an average of 75-25. They actually voted on that and took on that debt. So that was part of it. That wasn't the only thing, but we've been able to enhance our facilities that way. But we've taken care of them, and we've maximized them. Certainly, not only just maximizing our facilities, but also maximizing the quality experiences that we have for our student athletes, as it is one of our front porch things that we can accomplish. Teaching kids how to read, that's hard. It's really hard. But making sure that kids have quality athletic experiences or fine arts experiences or co-curricular competitive academic experiences, if you work a little bit at it and you do things right and you want the best for those kids, those are pretty easy opportunities and experiences to accomplish. So I'm excited about that. With Coach Gillespie, I think you're getting a different approach on this hire. You've got a guy that's been a head coach in a variety of team sports, head football coach, head baseball coach, head softball coach, assistant track. He coordinated defenses. He's also served as a small school athletic director, and at the same time, I think he was even a head powerlifting coach at one time as well. So I think you're going to get more of certainly a different speed of that than what we've had. No knock on the last one. It's what we've got. So there's no doubt that Coach Priest handed off a quality athletic program district wide, and I think we can take off. So appreciate the work that was done, and I look forward to the work ahead with your action towards Sam Gillespie.
Very good. Board, does anybody have any questions or comments before I entertain a motion? Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. President, I move that we accept Sam Gillespie as the Director of Athletics for Tyler ISD.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Congratulations, Coach Gillespie.
I'm not much of a speaker, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Dr. Crawford, President Washman, Board of Trustees, I want to tell you how honored I am and humbled at the same time. I think this is not only one of the best jobs in East Texas, I think it's one of the best jobs in this state. And I promise you, I'm going to work tirelessly to make sure we achieve successful student outcomes like our mission statement says, and we're going to try to enhance that through athletics. Dr. Crawford, you've done more for my career and my family's career than I could ever repay you. I want to tell you that here publicly. Very honored. I got to meet Dr. Crawford about 25 years ago on a baseball field in Euless, Texas at Trinity High School. That was the first time our paths crossed before he was Dr. Marty Crawford. And knew at the time he put a quality product on the field, well coached, developed a relationship with him, and fortunately was able to work for him again as athletic director and head football coach when he was at West as a superintendent. And I know the day I left, he told me, he said, "You're going to work again for me one day," and here I am. And he's a hard guy to say no to, and part of that's because such a great job he does in the leadership role. And I know we're very fortunate to have him here in Tyler ISD, and I want you to know my family's very fortunate for your friendship. I've got some family here today I do want to recognize. My mom and sister are here today. They've been a big part of my life, supported me throughout my career. My mom was one of those that was the first one at every ball game, never missed one, and think the world of them. I grew up, my dad was a cutting horse trainer, and he put a work ethic in me that I still carry on today. Also, my wife and my daughter, Mandy and Annie. My wife's works here in Tyler ISD. I know a lot of you know her. I read a quote today that talked to young coaches about picking a spouse. And they said, if you're in this profession, you need to pick a spouse that thinks as much of your profession as you do. And I hit a home run, I promise you, with that one, because she's been a huge, huge supporter of me in my career. And I know I wouldn't be here today without her. So really appreciate your trust in me. And I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure our athletic programs are the best in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
You bet.
I happened to be on the committee back 11 years ago in 2014 when we didn't have a superintendent, but we were hiring an athletic director, and I think I was 31 and been on the board a year. And it was a big committee, and actually the two head football coaches were on it and hiring their boss and everything. But I will say something special about the last 12 years that I've been on the board, or especially the last 11, is the stability we've had in leadership in a lot of areas, including Dr. Crawford, including the athletic director position. And I feel like it's really kind of raised the platform of where we're operating from. And I hope you stay a while and have good success, as we all do. And I have no doubt that will come. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
You bet.
Okay. Now, are we going to go back into executive session now, and there's no public participation, correct? No public participation. So, okay.
I think we can go ahead and roll through the
We'll
agenda.
roll on, and then we'll head back in after. So we have a cybersecurity update and a safety and security update. Thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate everybody here does for the district. Thank you, coaches. How you doing?
Morning.
Morning.
How are y'all?
We're great.
Well, good morning, President Washman and board members and Dr. Crawford. I appreciate you guys allowing me to come and do the 24-25 cybersecurity update. Behind me, I have Mr. Kisa Sunday, who is our network security engineer. I brought him with me in case you ask me any security questions that I don't know the answer to. He is the brains behind most of our cybersecurity policy and stature. So as y'all are aware, back in 2019, there was quite a bit of legislation passed that required us to do several things talk about it every time, but mostly it requires us to create policies and to have a cybersecurity coordinator, of which Mr. Keisa Sunday fills that role. So where do we stand today? We recently completed our cybersecurity assessment. We work with a partner that helps us through that each year, and we scored a 3.2 out of 5, which is an improvement over last year where we had a 2.8, which was an improvement over the year before. We're very, very happy with the 3.2. After visiting with our partner who works with over 250 school districts to perform these assessments, they told us that we are one of only 2 or 3 districts that they work with who scored a 3 or above. So 3.2 is a very, very good score. And it gives us a nice balance between the access to educational resources that our staff and students need, and also gives us the security we need to make sure our network is in a good place. So we're very happy about that. We also, this past year, blocked over 48 million spam and phishing emails, which accounts for 80% of the incoming email to the district. And when I saw that, I thought I was astounded by how many emails that is. If you look there on the chart, the green represents the 60 million plus emails that we get every year, and the red is how much of it is actually spam and phishing emails. Pretty crazy. Now, most of that email is blocked before it ever gets in the district. We have appliances and tools in place that block most of that stuff, but we do still get some through. Not nearly 48 million, but we do get a few through. Our secondary data center, you've heard me talk about that over the last couple of years, has finally been completed and is fully operational, which allows us to have a very enhanced network. It's more reliable, it's more resilient. We can take some outages without affecting the whole district, keep our internet operational, and has contributed to an over 99% uptime for this past year. So another thing that we're extremely happy about. Some progress we made in the 24-25 school year. Very happy to say another year and no data breaches. Happy to say that every year so far. And we've also 100% compliance with our cybersecurity training. And we have made considerable investments in our district, in our cybersecurity stance, to try to make sure that the district safety net is in a good place. Increased training, increased tools, and just trying to make sure that we have a good balance between security and access for our users. So what keeps us vigilant? If you'd asked me this a couple of years ago, I would have said, or if you'd asked me a couple of years ago what keeps me up at night, I would have said, what if our internet goes down? What if we lose access? What if one of our data centers go down and we lose the ability to teach? Because everything these days is just goes across the internet. We feel that we've got most of that resolved now. We don't feel like that's a threat. But what keeps me up at night is someone getting caught in a major phishing campaign. Phishing and ransomware, they're targeting schools. It's a national trend. It's probably the biggest thing out there that we have to avoid. As you could see by the previous slide where we're getting hit with 48 million emails, we're bombarded daily with these emails, trying to get users' credentials, trying to get access to things they don't need. And there's a lot of sensitive data at risk, from student data and employee ID numbers, medical information. And so Mr. Keisa Sunday spends a lot of his time doing pseudo phishing campaigns, putting tools in place to try to make sure that we don't get affected by that. We're constantly training our staff, testing our staff with fake phishing campaigns, and then giving training to those who don't make it, so that who click on the things they shouldn't, so that they're aware of what a phishing email looks like, and so that whenever something real does come through, they know what to do to avoid that. So one of the things I'm most nervous about, but I feel like we're in a really good place. Doesn't keep me up at night, but it is something to think about. Other than that, just trying to be proactive in our defense. We don't want to ever be reactive to a problem. We want to make sure that we are planning for things that could happen. There's always a need for advanced tools, but with budget constraints, trying to find that nice balance between having the tools we need to make sure that our network and our data is safe, and also being cognizant of the taxpayers' dollars. So that's something that we strive for. Our strategic priorities moving forward, we want to invest in some real-time threat detection. That's just enhanced tools like I was talking about a minute ago. We want to continue to enhance our Informicast security alerting system. What that application does is, in the event that there's a lockdown or a fire drill or any kind of emergency situation, not only do alerts go out over the audio systems of the schools, over the phone systems, but also now all the displays, the interactive flat panels in the classrooms, the panels that we recently upgraded in all the common spaces, the office areas. There's visual alerts that is posted there to help in the case of an emergency so that people can see visually, they can see audibly, and then also we have an app that goes along with that that pushes alerts to them as well to help keep folks safe in an emergency situation and keep them informed. That's in conjunction with Mr. Millslegel, and that's been a really good tool for us. Aside from that, just trying to stay ahead of risk, keeping Tyler ISD secure, expanding our cyber drills, working on some macro segmentation and then things with our network to kind of just separate it off and make sure that people are only accessing the things that they're supposed to. But ultimately, everything that we do in this space is just trying to keep our data and our networks secure in operation. That is the 2024-25 cybersecurity update. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Thank you. Board, anybody have any questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember the phishing trainings and all those things, and we would get angry and upset, but they are very beneficial, especially in a time like this.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so, to everybody out there, you need to do the phishing training because it helped me with my personal computer. Now I know what to look for and what not to look for. I'm not clicking on any links, so it is helpful. For those of you who haven't done your training, get on it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good point. That is a blessing on the personal level. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just a comment. I'm very impressed with the improvement each year. I think that's something that you always have to look forward to, and I think you're doing a very good job at, making sure that we're very secure within our district, which is, like Ms. Atkins said, at this day and time, it's really something to be concerned about. I get a lot of junk at home. That's why I don't go through my emails very much, Gina. I'm sorry. But it's important for us to know, especially as a district, that it's very secure. And I feel that it is very secure, and you're doing a very good job.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
How many flat panel screens do we have and computer screens do we have district-wide?
Interactive flat panels, somewhere in the 1,500. There's one in every single classroom, and then there's a lot of common spaces that have them. We just recently updated all the common spaces with new screens as well.
What
Computer
about your
screens.
computer screens estimate?
I mean,
One for every classroom,
everybody's got
every
one,
office
so
area. So
every staff member,
not every, right?
every computer
Well,
screens?
I mean, there's not a computer screen assigned to every food service worker.
Well, no, sir.
They have access to them though.
2,500,
Okay.
give or take, and then
So
Yeah.
we're north of 3,000 as far as emergency alerts and things like that could flash on there, and any tornado, bad weather, stay put alerts, whatever you want to call them, this year on the back of your card, your ID badge, right, Mills? And so it's integral with us as far as keeping our facilities safe and secure.
absolutely.
It hasn't been that long ago to where we didn't have that.
No, sir, just the past year and a half or so.
And you're not even talking about your phones, your phone system that we've consistently upgraded as well, which the superintendent of schools can actually send an all-call message to every one of those phones.
Yes,
Not
sir.
that that's ever been done or not. But my point on that is thankful for the community to support us, to be able to enhance our facilities, which technology's been a big part of that. There are a lot of school systems in East Texas and even across Texas that are having to play a lot of catch-up on this. We've got really good staff. Mr. Jacks and all of his techies that he's got, Mr. Bogue, all of his techies, because we've kind of split that. And then we've got safety and security that really roll into this as well. So again, we could not do that without the community support over the last 20 years that we've had. And it really does help us as far as being able to keep our kiddos safe and secure, along with our staff persons as well. So good stuff, even though we can't stand the phishing training.
We have come a long way. I was talking to a lady last night that was a teacher in the 70s at Lee, and she said that, they had phones in every room, but they didn't work. And so to refer any disciplinary action, they would have to send a note with the kid to the principal's office, and then they would never get there. And then they get called out, she'd have to leave the class. And, safety and security, no teacher in the classroom. And then, But we have come so very far thanks to the public approving these facility upgrades. And I had a question about, I guess our backup generator, our, our other, have we had the opportunity to see it in action a few times since?
Well, we have one at both locations, and
Right.
yes, we've seen them both in action.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
We've done failover tests where we basically completely shut off one data center and run out of the other one. Now, we don't have every service provided out of both data centers, but internet access is provided. So if we were to lose the administration data center, all the traffic in the district automatically, without anyone even knowing it, internet traffic would switch over and flow out the other one, and most folks would not even know what happened.
Great.
And same thing with the other one. Right now, we're load balanced across the two. Generators kick on when the power goes out. Yes,
Yeah.
sir, we've tested them.
It's always good to see things working when it actually happens as opposed to a scheduled test,
Yes, sir.
It always seems to be different.
Okay.
But,
Question, follow up on that. Do we have a regular scheduled test of a backup generator? Do we do it every so often, or it's just whenever you think about it?
Every Tuesday at 2:30.
Every week?
Oh,
Okay, great.
Yeah, ask
All
Mr.
right.
Bogue when it kicks off right outside his window.
Yeah, that's what my generator does, so.
It's funny.
great. Does anybody else have any?
Lot of improvement. I remember the old, what was that? What were the TVs inside of the high schools? What were those called, Rojo? Channel One.
Oh, yeah.
Channel One TVs.
Lisa
And
Lane.
then it was CNN for schools. That was always fun. So glad we've overcome some of those archaic and antiquated things that were, man, I guess I was in high school when that was starting. So a little bit more modern now. So thank
Come a
you for
long
the
way.
work y'all done.
Back then, it was pretty modern, though, to be watching
Team One.
Team One in a homeroom in sixth grade. That Lisa
MTV
Lane
every day.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. But okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So that was cybersecurity, and we talked a little about safety and security. But now we have a safety and security update by Agent Millsflegel.
Good morning.
Morning.
Put it in here. President Washman, Board of Trustees, Dr. Crawford, and of course, Ms. Orr, who keeps us all online. This is your safety and security update. I've talked to you before about TEA and the new safety and security stuff down there. And last week, I was fortunate to be in a meeting where two of the folks from TEA were there on school safety, and they announced to me, and then I passed it along to Dr. Crawford. In March of next year, they are going to do their district vulnerability assessment. They will hit 22 campuses, and we don't have the exact date, but they'll be here for about 2 weeks. And they go through a rubrics, and they use a system called Sentinel, which they took away from the FBI years ago. It's called Sentinel, where we put in documents, and I do that every week, and I probably put in 2,500 documents this school year. We're ready if they come tomorrow. And that's a credit to not only my guys that work for me, but IT and everybody else. We're doing it right. I did also ask them, what are they seeing statewide? So we're prepared. Number one, by far and away, are doors. Doors that are propped open, doors that are open, that are unmanned, and things like that. We take a very dim view of that, and we haven't caught anybody in quite some time. And that'll lead into my fourth thing that we'll talk about here in a minute. Number two, this little item right here. When they interview any staff member, what do you do in a lockdown? And it's real easy. If you turn this over, it says lights, locks, and out of sight. But I was very surprised that many districts failed in findings, not knowing what to do. Also explained to them what we have in the Informacast, how it goes over the IFPs, it goes over phones. They like that. So talked about that for a while. The other thing was substitutes, not knowing what to do. So we have in place with Ms. Perkins and HR, when you become a substitute, we're going to give you a packet. And you come to the school, it'll have a badge with this in it, explanations on the standard response protocol. It will have a key. It will have a map. It will also have an evacuation map and a list of numbers if there's an emergency, what to do, how to dial 911, because you'd be surprised people mess that up on a regular basis. It also will tell you who the officer is, our numbers, and kind of what to do in case of an emergency. It'll also be on the vector training, and so they also like that. So those were the big things that they've been finding. For the past 4 months, as bullet number 2 is, we have been a pilot program for the behavioral threat assessments to get it standardized across the board in the state of Texas. Lori Anderson and I were part of that. They're rolling it out next Tuesday, so we go live. So instead of principals cobbling it together and sending it in June and forgetting about one, this will be done immediately. So if there's a threat assessment or a self-harm, we put it right in, and it's real easy. It's very user-friendly. We've had 22 of our campuses have the intruder audits, 88%. We're 100%. We've been 100% since day one, and they come each month, and we have 3 more to go. That's Tyler High, Moore, and Woods, and that'll be scheduled not on a date in which we have testing in May. The School Safety Center notified me 2 weeks ago that they wanted updates on our 2 new campuses, Early College and Hubbard. So my team and I went out and we did the 500 questions and visited with the principals on security and safety, and that will be submitted. Mr. Newsom, your favorite subject here, the TxDOT. Last Thursday at this time, I was on a Zoom meeting with Austin and 4 local engineers here in the city of Tyler, and we passed the first hurdle. Next hurdle will be if it passes down in Austin, we will do the detailed application, and I will come before you like we did 2 years ago and get a resolution from the board, community members, and we'll send that in. The caveat on this is it's about $280 million. The requests that came in for round 1 were over $1 billion. But here's the good thing for our project. It will be 100% funded through these transportation credits because we're part of a community under 200,000 people. So the previous one was 20% matching by the district. So keep our fingers crossed, and it's gonna range at about the $750,000 range that we paid for by the federal government through TxDOT. And then last but not least, it's May, and our fire marshal's coming back. He has a schedule of our testing. We will not interrupt that because this time he's going into classrooms, making sure we're in compliance. We did very well last year, and I hope to do the same. And that's what I have in a nutshell, subject to any questions.
Board, any questions or comments?
One thing that does concern me, when we start talking about the interviews that are going to take place, and obviously every school system in the state is getting talked to, right?
Yes.
All because of what happened, the focus on, and rightfully so, in Uvalde. We may not agree with how they're going about some of this stuff, but it is severely needed, the focus on the safety of our schools, whether it be private, charter, or public. That needs to be a priority for the state of Texas. One thing that does concern us, obviously, if you've got bilingual staff that might work in food service or maybe custodial, and then you also brought up the substitute stuff there as far as the consistencies go on a day-to-day basis. When you show up and you're part of the culture of a campus on every day, it's almost ingrained in you. It's almost baked inside of your day-to-day as far as safety. But all it takes is one hiccup. And I'll give you one example. When we had our perimeter concern on the south end of town the other day between Hubbard and Legacy and supposedly in Rose Rudman Park, right?
Correct.
Which then it was like at Troop Highway, which the Troop Highway and Rose Rudman's a long way from each other. That wasn't our intel, that was the city's intel. I was there during lunch at Legacy, just kind of on that side of town, scouting some stuff out. Went in there, just interviewed some kids. I know a few kids there. I interviewed one. She says, "Oh yeah." She said, "Yeah, we went into which level did we go?"
It was a secure.
It was a secure. So everything inside the building is normal.
Yes.
Correct. So go about your day as normal.
Nobody coming in.
Right. Nobody comes in, and so at this table of freshman girls, there was talk about that. And they were like, well, the sign by the door tells you exactly what all of these mean. Lockdown versus threats versus whatever. Everything that's on the back of your badge.
Yep.
Maybe we need to
Correct.
get board members one of those to put on their badge.
We can do that.
Legal. So it's funny though, because there was one on that table that said, we thought there was an active shooter on campus in our classroom. And I said, what? Because yeah, turned out the lights, everybody got into a corner, did the X, Y, and Z of what you're supposed to do? Because they had a sub. So how you bat 1,000 on the interview process of this is just something we're expecting that will provide us good intelligence on where maybe some of our gaps are. And that's how we're approaching this.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And
Eventually.
they did a great job at both campuses, by the way, because this guy ran 8 miles in 3 minutes between Troop Highway and everywhere else he went.
Pretty good athlete.
Yeah, it was, we were listening to it on the radio.
Yeah,
the
so,
Tyler radio.
that is a concern of ours. We've talked about that. How do you get everyone, some of these intermittent staff persons that are sporadically with us or consultants or whatever, how do you get them, coached up on the safety and security strategy that we have and the logistics, and that's something we'll continue to flesh out. I do think eventually, Mills and I have talked about this, that we will be receiving a safety and security grade. I think it'll be part of accountability down the road.
Absolutely. I wasn't going to mention this because it's not part of the slide, but I see when I'm at a meeting, district improvement plan. That's really something not in my world. Well, guess what's in it now? The police department policy, 1 page of what officers do at each campus. And we've been blessed by the board, the taxpayers, to have officers every campus in my staff. So that's been added. And I sent it over to the folks and say, here's the 1 page that's been approved. And that's kind of the blessing when you run into these guys at a sheriff's meeting that you sit down and just talk to over a cup of coffee or Diet Coke, and you kind of learn what they're looking for, because it's all subject to their interpretation, and they use that word extensively. Regardless of what the Texas Education Code calls for, it's their interpretation. We've also, one last thing, we put this in Spanish now for our Spanish-speaking employees. So that's a new thing in the last week.
Very good. I've had a lot of opportunities lately to brag on safety and security at our campuses, and it's so easy to do. I mean, it is just, I can't thank the community enough for giving us these new facilities that are modern, that are easier to keep safe. And then I get to brag on our retired FBI agents that are heading up our safety and security team, and that really speaks volumes to where we're at as a community and where we're at as a board on keeping our kids safe as best we can do. It's hard to do in the modern environment, but I can't imagine anybody doing better than we do. So,
Well, thank you very much.
yeah.
I'll pass that along to everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. I have something. In relation to security, we're required to do a lot of education, so I just completed mine last night, Gina. Once again, thank you for the prompting. I did notice some things that I've discovered that in regards to all that information, that all the requirements that we have to do now, and some of that may have existed before, but classroom door windows. And I've been on some campuses and I've seen that, and I don't know if we're checked off on that in regards to safety or not, but that was on there that they should not have their doors. Each door should have an opening so you can see into the room and they can see out. And I've been on some campuses and I know that's not available because they cover their windows completely and they can't see out and you can't see in. So are we addressing that some kind of way?
Yes.
Okay.
I found out from the guys I talked to, we've drilled about 270 holes with peepholes where we have solid doors.
Okay.
And they do allow that coverings on the windows so you could peek in and peek out. But if it's a solid door, we're drilling a hole 5 feet up right in the middle of the door. And we put in, I think, 270 right now, and we're still counting.
Okay.
And that also includes exterior doors that are like to the fire connections. You've got to put it in there because you could have a human being in there and not know it, and somebody banging on the outside. So Mr. Grant's team has done a great job in putting those in.
So you're saying that?
Logistically, I'll answer that question. Logistically
Okay.
speaking, that is something that we do not want happening.
Okay.
And, as much as we tell principals to do so, that our preference is to, at least with those windows, do not cover those windows. It still occurs.
Right.
And that is not what we want.
Okay.
We do not want
Okay.
windows covered up.
Right.
Now, I'm going to say this. Before 2019, 19? No, when did Uvalde happen? 20
May of 22.
22, excuse me. Before 22, instructionally speaking, so that you didn't operate in a silo, so that instruction could be monitored more effectively, closing doors was a no-no, was frowned upon, that you were to be transparent with your instruction that was going on. It was, but now it's a little different. And I bring this up because I think it's also going to cause some more issues for school districts by having those doors closed and locked. So there's one thing about effective instruction. There's one thing about safety and security and all the things that entail. When you have your doors open,
Yeah.
instruction and things that are going inside of your classrooms are more transparent, and you can hear things and you can see things easier. When you have the door closed, it's a little bit different. And whenever you're teaching, you got the door locked, and an administrator wants to come in and watch instruction, or the superintendent wants to say hello. What do I have to do? I got to get a key out and disrupt the flow of a classroom. So there's a balance there, but the windows are an effective way. If those are open, you can peek in there and see what's going on. And we want the windows to where maybe there's a
Shade.
shade or something,
In
but
an emergency
Right.
situation.
but
Okay, yeah, I
there are
understand.
certain staff members in the history of having doors to close and windows to cover that want to cover those things. So yes, sir, I see where you're going with that. And Mr. Jones is over there. Let's reinforce that once again, that it came from this dais, that we need to make sure that we have somewhat of an ability to peek inside of a classroom. And this stuff about, oh, this is too, what do they always tell it? Oh, sorry. What do they always tell us, Mr. Loper or Mills? It's so distracting. Kids are distracting me all the time, or an administrator looking, or people looking in. It's just distracting.
It is. Especially if you're by the bathroom.
Yeah, there you
by
go.
the
So,
stairs.
yeah.
I was by the stairs, and every time they move by, knock on your window, hey, Miss Atkins, and it's disruptive.
You're right.
So it
You're
depends on where your class is, and if you're in a hall where seventh graders come over, and it's sixth graders are still in class, or if you had English class that's 90 minutes and you change every
There you
45
go.
minutes. So sometimes it is disruptive. I wasn't guilty of that, but it was disruptive.
Well, I know this, that if Miss Atkins was placed near a restroom, that means that there was a lot of trust that you were going to handle your business near that restroom.
See it.
Then just a follow-up comment about the pedestrian crosswalk at Tyler High. I really appreciate your diligence on that project. And I don't mind it being labeled as my project. That's okay. But it is a concern within the individuals within that area and the safety of their children. And I think the price is kind of absurd, but I'm kind of cheap. So, but I really appreciate you staying on that, and hopefully we can get that to be completed sometime in the future, because I think it will be a lot safer over there in that area, because so many kids walk along that street and
Absolutely.
need to get across. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Artis Avenue.
Not looking for any names.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the update. Okay, an action item we have is to consider authorizing the superintendent to execute an agreement for retail electric services for the district.
Let's not take a motion on that. Let's table that for after executive session, because I think we've got the attorney that'd like to give you some commentary on that.
Okay,
So we're
that'll be good.
we'll take care of that after we have a chance to discuss things with our lawyer.
Okay, and then do you want to go ahead and do the legislative update?
Yeah, real quick, not a whole lot here, other than it is House Budget Day today. So over the next 24 to 48 hours, it could go that long. You're going to see a lot of floor amendments trying to clean up a lot of things inside of some budget bills. The one thing that I think we should be concerned about is the disparity between the Senate's plan, the House plan on teacher compensation, and some of the flexibility that allows. We all want teachers to get raises, and they need to, and it's baked into both plans. They're going about it in different ways as far as the cut points on what the requirements could possibly be as far as how much enrollment you have. In other words, trying to catch up rural teacher pay versus what they see as big city and suburban play, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. That's certainly something that's concerning, and how they're going to address that on the House end versus what the Senate's already put out there is something that we're really keeping an eye upon. So that's something that's concerning, as is the basic allotment. Just being able to have additional dollars inside of your budget that aren't just all relegated to such a tight scope on what you do with that money. Doesn't mean you can't pay teachers more even outside of what they're requiring. And I think we're going to come up with a plan that allows y'all to consider that. But being able to buy school buses, being able to pay for gas and utilities and other things, buy pencils, buy computers, that comes out of the basic allotment. So the Senate side of things didn't really have it. I think they're open to talking about it. The House does have plans for that. I did talk about the disparity between teacher compensation, and there's some things that are really concerning we're part of the Texas School Alliance. For about 20% of the Texas School Alliance member districts, which are the 50 largest school systems in the state, including Tyler. When you start talking about Amarillo, you start talking about Lubbock, you start talking about Midland and Ector County, which is Odessa. You start talking about Abilene, you start talking about Tyler. You're surrounded by some of these suburban school systems or smaller school systems. And if you look at the Senate's plan, it allows rural school systems to supersede some of those districts as far as teacher pay goes, especially early from the 0 to 10 years, to well supersede us because of the way that the formulas are baked in. They used to have a thing called Cost of Education Index. Remember CEI, Mr. Jones? They took that out. As a regulator, they had the basic funding, then they had a CEI index where they took the urban areas of cost of living adjustments, et cetera, to live there. And that's been taken out as an elevator on school funding because it was quote unquote thought of it's cheaper to live in East Texas or West Texas than it is in a suburban or urban environment. And it's still somewhat true. They're recognizing in some of these proposals that some of your central city districts, like I just mentioned, and even Longview's considered in that as well, that there may be some disparity there, and it may not take care of some of those central city areas. So we've talked about that, and we've contacted legislators, even the local ones, but really the ones that are on these education committees, obviously Chair Buckley out of Killeen with House Pub Ed, about maybe doing some cleanup in regard to that. Not to penalize the rurals, but understanding that in this grand, one beautiful big bill, I'm saying that tongue in cheek, that there's going to be some consequences in there. And again, trying to protect Tyler and trying to convey and advocate for what we have, along with some of the Abilenes and the Amarillas and the Lubbocks, that you're going to wind up creating some disparity and some inequity in there for us as well. So I think if you're going to ask me by the end of the day what that's going to look like, I think you're going to get a pretty flat teacher pay raise, negotiated plan. That's when they finally go to conference committee. There may not be as much disparity as far as the rurals versus the urbans, and then you're going to see a bump for all teachers across the state that's pretty similar in number. Now, you may ask me why I'll tell you what the proponents of the rural-urban split are, that rural Texas is severely underpaid as far as educator pay goes. I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is rural Texas usually votes a certain way, and urban Texas usually votes a certain way, and there may be a little bit of penalty. It's too coincidental in regard to that. So I don't want to get caught up in that jet wash, because we do things in a bipartisan way, free of politics. We just want our teachers to get paid the way that they deserve to get paid, along with our staff. So I think there's some of those shenanigans that are going on, and we need to do what we can to fight that and not get caught up in the vortex of politics. The last two things I'll say, I think safety and security. We've had two reports here today in that realm. that a lot of your maintenance and operations dollars, which is basically the 85% of our budget's in personnel, 10% in fixed costs, 5% in discretionary. That's a pretty good cut. It could vary a few percentage points either way. But we sure do pull a lot out of our maintenance and operations, our own basic allotment, if we're going to use the state funding, to bolster some of the things that are mandated by the state that we do, and that is in safety and security and special education. And so them pulling some of that out and increasing the safety and security allotment per kid and by campus will certainly be something that we're looking forward to if they can get it across the finish line. Same thing with special education and the weights. Because when they unleashed the, was it 8.5% cap? Remember the ghost cap? That you could only have 8.5% of your school population to be special education? And there was a cap on that. Remember, Ms. Atkins? And if you exceeded the cap, you got popped with a plan. Well, the feds called us out on that and unleashed the hounds. Now you're talking, instead of 8.5% or 6% is what we had when we first got here, Mr. Jones. Now we're at 12%. So we've increased our special education numbers by we doubled it. So is that 100%, 50%? Maybe? I don't know. We've got a lot more kids now that require more services, and we're struggling on that end. So if they were to fund those things appropriately, and they probably won't fully fund all of that, but yeah, if you go from 6% to 12%, I know it looks like 6% on there, but you've really doubled your kids, right? Okay. If they'll do that, then I think those are also some dollars that we're spending out of our basic allotment, out of our M&O to support those programming to again, go back into teacher compensation and pay for outcomes. So those are things that we're looking forward to. It is House Budget Day. It's actually running on my computer back in the office. I watched about that long of it and then headed over here, and then I'll probably watch a little bit more of that before I go do my next thing today. But we've got folks that are watching the entire goings on down there, and will provide some updates once they figure out where they're going to be again over the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours, probably without any breaks. I don't know how they do it. It's crazy. So, any questions about legislature?
I have a couple of questions. So just to clarify on, in a town like Tyler where we've got people who live in Tyler but could easily work 10 minutes away in other districts, you're saying under the current proposal, those same people could live in Tyler, drive 10 minutes and get paid better because that district has less students than the hometown that they're in, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the scale, the scale maximization of a Tyler ISD being able to pay better because of that is being chipped away at. Mm-hmm. And so the one good thing, Mr. Washman, is that when you go to work in Lindale, Chapel Hill, White House, Bullard, if you start thinking about the ring suburbs, people don't leave there. Mm-hmm. Now, so if they have a vacancy in third grade, they may try to come cherry pick one of our better third grade teachers to go teach there. But it's not like it's a mass exodus. Now, parents will tell you differently, and they'll contact you all and go, oh my gosh, everybody's leaving XYZ Elementary. We had 2 retirements. And if you start thinking about 2,700 of our staff, 1,250 of them being we don't want to lose any of them, any of our good ones. But sometimes that does happen, and you might hear that, but that might be a thing that's out there, that XYZ ISD pays better. But there's also a difference in work conditions as well, different in clientele as far as students go. Now, everybody's got their challenges, but that might be something that's of consideration as well. But yes, that's correct. The disparity may not be quite as what it has been.
Okay. I would hope our representatives see that and understand.
Absolutely.
And adjust. And then there's been some talk out. I've been listening to some people lately, and it seems like there's this. Some people are casting a very fearful vision of our future as far as funding goes. Do you foresee any sort of doomsday scenario where we are cut dramatically in funding this session?
You know, it's funny, my dad and I had that conversation last night. Y'all know my dad's a former school superintendent. He kind of keeps up with this. And I had a real quick visit to Austin late Tuesday night and then into yesterday, and then back in the district yesterday afternoon. And here I am today. So we get to talk a lot. He loves this time of year, or every 2 years, because he loves to talk about school stuff. And he asked about that the same way. And he said, you know, I probably in the 30 years I was superintendent went through, he said 10 crises, finance. It's always a crisis. And I think that that's the politics of the whole thing, to be honest with you. Now, obviously, remember, 2019, they improved the basic allotment. Then what happened in 2021? We were in the middle of what, Ms. Atkins? COVID. You were here during COVID. You were here. So in saying that, that was a thing to where the state didn't have to go back and actually do the finance thing. They could depend upon what?
Uncle Lester.
Uncle Lester. That's right. And then you get to 2023, and y'all all know what happened in 2023. There wasn't a voucher bill that got across the finish line, and so who was penalized because of that? K-12 public education. Yeah, you run the risk again of that happening, but we're set up way better than anyone else. We did not go all in on hiring a bunch of people as far as COVID goes. We're going to be able to do something compensation-wise, Tyler ISD is, and stay as above that doomsday scenario as possible. You talk about the Department of Education. Those dollars have all been, or you know, food service dollars are different. They're not part of Title I. So I don't think that those things are going to be touched. Why you kids that need to be fed? Why you would want to do that? Politically speaking, that is probably not a good strategy. You want to talk about Title I funding? That's going to go over into the Department of Treasury, I believe. And so I don't think they're going to cut that. I think that what you look at on the Department of Education is a cut of the bureaucracy. And I want to tell you, being a superintendent for 17 plus years now, I'm okay with that, because there's been times when the federal bureaucracy has limited us on being effective, even here in Tyler ISD. If you can talk about our Head Start skirmish that we had a few years ago, that was one of the big things that we needed to fight and win, and we did. The DSEG order, that had extended its shelf life, rightfully so, in place early on, but it went way too long, 50 years, right? Don't like that, close. And then you start talking about, you know, some other things that there's federal overreach on. So I think that's going to be a positive. I don't think it's going to be a cut in funding per se. What I worry about with that is that money going to the state, and then there is no federal oversight for the purpose of those dollars, and the state, Austin has now seemed to have turned into DC, to where they don't really care for local control if they do something that's not in the best interest of students, and they maybe pull all that money together and make it, you know, for special pet projects, et cetera. So I don't think there's a doomsday scenario there, and if there is, we'll be prepared to adjust and adapt and do what we can to continue to provide decent compensation for our staff. Vouchers, that's always a hot topic. This board has never been for vouchers. What was that, May Day? Did we have a May Day press conference? Was it May Day? That wasn't May. That was in March.
Yeah, there was two different ones.
Okay.
There was one that we did at the Career and Technology Center, and then there was a separate one that the district did.
Okay.
I think that was called May.
Yeah, that was May Day.
May Day was the one that had all the districts across, like we had people in Dallas doing.
Okay. So we had one in March at this Career Tech Center. Many of y'all showed up to that. Yeah, we don't think it's good policy. And we also don't think it's good for Tyler, Texas and East Texas, because right now the ecosystem, educationally speaking, is solid. We have good rapport. We have good relationships. We share kids all the time. What we worry about are the grifters, the pop-ups, to take. I mean, we've said that from day one, that, you know, $10,000 a kid, I'm going to go get 5 of them just so I can say I've got $50,000. I'm going to put them on Khan Academy and call it a school. Yeah, and guess who's going to get those kids when that private school fails or that charter school fails? Tyler ISD. So absolutely, we're keeping an eye on that, and we're concerned about it. But the way they've budgeted it, I think it initially, again, is what, 2% of public school kids could be potentially siphoned off? Are all 2% going to take advantage of that? I don't think so. I think we do a good job in Tyler ISD. The other thing that I'll say on that is the concern on that is by 2030 or whatever, it's going to be maybe $7 billion. And that would be available dollars in public ed that would be concerning to me as a local taxpayer or an advocate for public schools and a believer in public schools and how important it is to our republic and our nation and our state, that could be a dent in any future funding for Texas. But yeah, we're kind of in that rut of funding crises. It happens every 2 years. And so it's not anything new. So anybody that wants to say that it's a crisis or any different than what it's been the last 2 years to 4 years to 6 years to 10 years to 20 to 30 to 50, it's always part of the making of this gumbo that we call school finance.
The sky continues to fall every 2 years.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you know, you got to have the right leadership to find a way to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of my colleagues, and I love them, that live in Austin, it seems like, and they're on the steps of the Capitol all the time talking about how it's just terrible. It is not good. It's not any fun, but it's what you sign on for. It's what you sign on for as a board member. It's what you sign on for as a school superintendent, to find a way to win even when the deck is stacked against you. And we're going to continue to do that no matter what happens as far as the funding goes. So,
Thank you. I have no doubt. Okay.
Comment.
Yes.
You know, I've been on the board, I guess, about 4.5 years or so, and I've always felt very secure about our financial status, especially after we got that 3 cents or 2 cents, whatever it was originally, for our maintenance. You know, I think that TISD is very stable financially and has been for a number of years. And I think that we as a district have little to worry about. Did I say TISD or Tyler ISD? Anyway, I'm old, so what can I say? Anyway, Tyler ISD has done a very good job on protecting this district financially and managed our finances very well. You know, I don't particularly like the voucher concept or the system very much at all, but I think that we as a district have managed very well, and I think that we will do pretty well regardless of what happens because of our conservative management of it in the past years. And I don't speak lightly about that, considering I'm very conservative in management of money myself. So I think that we have little to worry about on that sense, from my perspective as a board member.
I have no doubt we'll keep fighting the good fight. Okay, we'll adjourn then for executive session, and we do have two items, action items to follow after that. We have reconvening from executive session. We do have to consider the possible action to propose the non-renewal of the Chapter 21 term contract of Denise Kumbuka.
Mr. President, on the recommendation of the administration, I move that the board propose the non-renewal of the Chapter 21 term employment contract of Denise Kumbuka for good cause, and that the board president and the administration be authorized and directed to send the required notices.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. One other action item that we had was to consider authorizing the superintendent to execute an agreement for retail electric services for the district. Do I have a motion on that item?
Mr. Washman, I move that we authorize the superintendent to execute an agreement for retail electric services for the district.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. There's no other action. There's no other action. And so I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.